Good morning and welcome to the ISM Lunch and Learn series. Today we'll be looking at increasing efficiency in stage 100. A bit of housekeeping before we get started. All the lines will be muted for the presentation and we will be opening up at the end for questions. But please feel free to use the chat window during the presentation and we will address those questions at the end as well. So welcome to Increase Efficiency webinar. We are going to go through a few different topics. So we're going to go through hotkeys, we're going to go through my tasks, some custom lookups, general journal entries, accounts payable, invoice data entry, and accounts receivable invoice data entry. We're going to reduce duplication by looking at sales order data entry and purchase order data entry and also auto generation. We're also going to automate some communication. So you can email to your customers and vendors, you can send out order confirmations, invoices, statements, and you can also send purchase orders. So let's close out of that. So one of the first things I wanted to share with people is the aspect of having hotkeys. So I actually have a document here that I can send to everyone who's in attendance today of the hotkey functionality that is available within the Sage 100 system to make things go a little bit faster. So one of the things to keep in mind is anywhere that you see an underlined character on a menu, such as accept or cancel, it is Alt and that underlined character. So to accept the data entry, you can click Alt-A rather than grabbing your mouse and clicking the button. Canceling, deleting, or even printing, such as printing off a sales order or picking sheet, you can just hit Alt-P. So this is actually 4 pages long, so there is a lot of little hotkey functionality, as you can see. So also, if you're ever wondering what a button, what a button actually does do, you can take a look at this document to find out what the button does. So now let's look at my tasks. So let's look at customizing grids. So in sales order or purchase order or anywhere that you see, anywhere that there's a data entry screen, so let's go into sales order entry, you actually have the ability to customize those grids. So bear with me, let's wait for that to pop up. There it is. Okay, so we're in a data entry screen. So if you click on this magnifying glass, it comes up with a list of all the data entry or all the sales orders that you have out there, and you have the ability to click on this custom button. Let's actually go out to AR real quick. We'll do customer maintenance. Let's kind of stick with customer maintenance with customizing grids and pulling in stuff. Okay, so click on the magnifying glass. It gives us the customer list. We have the ability to do a custom lookup. So if you're constantly looking up the same things in the same way, creating a custom lookup is going to decrease the keystrokes to look up a list. So I also have customers using this as like a reporting tool. So it's pretty easy. You can pull in the specific fields that you're looking for. You can do this in customer lookups, vendor lookups, the GL listing, sales order entry, purchase order lookups, anywhere that you see that magnifying glass, okay? So we can create a new view. So let's call this state, and I already have one created. I'll call it state 2, and you can set it as a default view or just a view that you pull up. So we'll just keep it as not the default view. We're going to click next, and it's going to give us this screen here. So we have all the available fields here on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side is the selected columns. So we have customer number, name, status, zip code, phone number, sort field, etc. So we're going to go through here, and let's pull in some additional fields. So I want to see the city, the state, the country code, maybe an email address, terms code. We can look up salesperson information. And if we scroll all the way down, we can even pull in credit limit, which might be useful, and then their current balance. So we'll pull in a few different fields that we can take a look at. So you also, if you scroll down to the bottom, you also have additional tables that you can pull data in from. So it depends on which lookup you're in. We're in the customer list, so it's giving us the tables below. So we can look at, AR customer contact information. We can look at the CA item table, which is going to hold the item maintenance information. We can look at sales order, ship to addresses, zip code information, etc. Okay. And so we have all the fields over here on the right-hand side. So we're just going to click on next. And the next screen, we have the ability to do like a filter. So if we want to do a filter on, let's say, only California states, we can do that. We can set this up here. We just want a list of all of them. So we're going to do customer list. We're going to default the search column to customer number. You can even set up a custom lookup just to change the default search column and the default search option. So let's say you don't know customer numbers. Let's say you always know the names. You can change the default search column to name. You can change the default search option to maybe contains. So instead of having to change the search information down here on the bottom, you can automatically keep it at this setting, and then you can just start typing the customer name or a part of the customer name so that it populates. Okay, so that's something a lot of clients use as well. So now we have a list. I know I don't have a big list, but now I have a list. This is our original customer list where it only had those original fields that it gave us because we didn't set this as a default view. But if you go down to the bottom and you click on the view standard, now we have a list of my custom views. So the one I created was state 2, and let's look at kind of what it looks like. So I have, the customer number, the name, the status, zip code. We can scroll over. The email address is kind of long. There we go. Terms code, credit limit, current balance. So I have people that will use this even like as a reporting tool if you want to just a list of all your customers, if you want specific information. And a cool thing that you can do is you can always export that to Excel. So down here on the bottom right-hand side, there is an X icon, so exporting it to Excel. So we can click on that Excel button, and it is going to populate that customer list, but in Excel. So we have a nice report here that we can use. We can turn this into a filter. We can filter out information. We can search for specific information that we need, etc. So there's two pretty cool things that you can do there. So, okay, let's now look at customizing grids. So like in sales order or purchase order, anywhere that there's a data entry screen, you have the ability to customize those grids. So let's see. So we went through that. We went through customizing grids. We went through custom lookups. Okay, so now I want to share something about general journal entries. So if you're continually using over and over each month the same general journal entry, so rather than hand entering them, you can actually use a template to recall that same journal entry again. So let's go into general journal entry. Okay, where's the screen? There it is. Bear with me, it's popping up right now. Okay, so let's do the next batch number. And we're going to do source journal, JE, entry number, posting date looks good. Oops, it closed out. Okay, JE. So let's do a quick journal entry. We're just going to pick a random scale account. And if you do this often, I'm not sure if you know about this icon over here on the right-hand side where it's the net balance. So let's say you have a bunch of entries, a bunch of debits, and your final entry is just a credit, and you want to just sum up all of those. You can click on this net balance or click Alt-B, and it's going to automatically fill in that remaining amount, that credit. So that's something that's pretty useful as well. So now what we can do is we can come up here to the right-hand side, and we have the available to do save standard. So we can save the standard journal. So let's see if we have any out there. It looks like we have a few out there already. So let's do this one as health insurance. And we're going to save. We're going to click accept. And then we can accept that. Let's close out of general journal entry, and then I'll show you how to pull it up again. So we're going to create a new batch just like we were doing before. And we're going to create a new entry number. And now what we can do is we can do a copy from, and we can choose standard journal. We can even copy from a journal history or an allocation, etc. So now I have the list of all the standard journals that we've saved, recently. So for instance, we saved this one, health insurance. So I'm going to pull that up. It's going to give us the same journal comment that we had on the original one, and it's going to give us the account numbers, and it's going to clear out the debits and credits. So we can enter in a new value if we need to. So let's say now it's 150. And then we can sum that up. And then this is a new journal entry. We can accept it. We can post just like we would post a regular journal entry. So another way to streamline your processes is we can actually, would be an AP. So an AP under setup options, there is the ability to create an expense distribution table. So if we go down to set up expense distribution table, we can actually set up a way to distribute expenses. So let's see what we have so far. So we have in here telephone. So for example, we can set this up. We can choose the GL account. So for instance, I'm going to use this for a telephone or for a telephone bill. If we want to split up the telephone bill by departments, we can do it, by 15%, 20%, etc. So I'm using this as the 540 account number with the sub account being 00 and then 10 and then 20, 30, 40. And those are all by my different departments that I have set up. So I want to say, okay, 15%, 20%, 5 to this percent, etc. And so as long as the total percent equals 100%, you're good to go. And so that's saved in the expense distribution table. You can save as many of those as you need to. Then what you can do is next time you enter an invoice into invoice data entry, let's expand that. So I can enter my total telephone bill, which is going to be $1,000. And then you have terms code, etc. And then there's this field that I'm sure not a lot of people have kind of seen, they kind of overlook it, expense distribution table. So at this point in invoice data entry, you can actually go out and create an expense distribution table directly by clicking on that link, creating a new table code, etc. Or you can choose one that's already been set up. So we're going to go out and choose the telephone expense distribution table, and then we're going to go to the lines tab, and it's automatically distributed for me. So you can also modify any of these numbers, but you're going to have to distribute to another account. So let's say I want to do $150 to this department. So I have a distribution balance down here at the bottom. If you look at the right-hand side bottom, you have a distribution balance of $50. So we need to put that to another department. So I'm going to do $100. And so now our total is $1,000. So we're good here. So it automatically distributed. So this is going to be great for monthly bills like electricity, water, gas, telephone, cell phone bills, rent, wherever you're allocating by a percent across different departments or accounts. So even if you don't use like a hard percentage, You can still use this to populate the account numbers over here on the left-hand side. If you have a ton of account numbers, a ton of different departments that you're applying to, at least it will populate those account numbers, and then you can enter in those amounts manually. So at least you'll get those account numbers in there, okay? And then you would post and process this AP invoice like you usually do. So another thing in AP that I wanted to show you is by removing voided checks. So I want to show you how to quickly remove voided checks. So if we go down to accounts payable and then utilities, you have the ability to remove voided checks pretty easily. So it's this down here. You can choose a bank code specifically. You can choose a check number or a range of check numbers, and then you would just click proceed. It's going to ask you, do you want to remove the voided check, but it just wants to verify that information. You click yes, and it removes all the voided checks that you have out there so it doesn't clutter up the information that you have. Okay, so let's move on. So next I want to talk about AR. So we have the ability to enter invoices that repeat. So like monthly fees, maintenance, warranties, rent you have to send invoices out to, etc. Things you don't have to, so then you don't have to re-enter them over and over every month, okay? So let's go to AR again. And it would be under repetitive invoice entry. So repetitive invoice entry looks very similar to invoice data entry. Let's pull up both screens so we can kind of take a look. Repetitive invoice. Okay, so it still has the customer number information, the customer PO. Instead of invoice date, due date, etc., you have now select a cycle. You have start billing, you have stop billing, you have net invoice number. Okay, so those are just new additional fields that you don't have. So let's create a repetitive invoice. So we're going to choose the customer because it's always going to be the same customer, and you can enter a reference. So you can put any type of reference you want so that you can, recognize this. So we can say rent, for example. Customer PO. So now what we have is select cycle. So you want to use a cycle like daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, etc. So for instance, we're just going to do, this is going to be monthly. And you can use any codes you want to use. You just have to remember what the code is so that when we pull up this repetitive invoice, we're going to pull it up by the cycle. So we can start the billing. We can start it in 2018. We can choose to stop it. So let's say we want to do it for a year, 2019. Terms code, ship method, these are all going to be the same. When you pull this up, it's also going to give you the last build and also the times build. It is pretty good to reference. And then we can go to the lines tab. Okay, so let's pull up, for instance, maintenance, okay? And so the price is $85. Let's just change it. It's going to be $100 for maintenance. And so we're done. We can add as many lines as we want. We can add comments. We can add any of that stuff. So let's click accept, and then we're going to accept. And so it's not processing an invoice at this time. It's just saving that template out to the system, okay? So then what we want to do, so now it's time for us to pull up that invoice. We want to create a new invoice data. We're going to go to repetitive invoice selection, okay? And it's going to give us this AR repetitive invoice selection. And we can choose, let's create a batch first. We can choose what the invoice date is, what the selection date is, okay? So let's do next invoice number. And then here's where we can choose the cycles or the customer number or the reference. So if you have a ton of repetitive invoices out there and they're all monthly billings and you've assigned them cycles of MO, we can type in the cycle MO here and it's going to pull up all of our repetitive invoices. It's going to create invoices for all of our monthly repetitive invoices. Okay, so we're going to click proceed. And it's gone out there, it's created them. And now we have to go into invoice data entry. Where did it go? We might not have had it. Let's try this one more time. It might not have been in my selection criteria. There it is. Okay, so we had two different repetitive invoices out there. The one that we just entered was this Breslin part supply for $100. But what it's done is we selected the specific repetitive invoices. It created the invoices. So now if we want, we can go in and review the invoice, or we can just go ahead and post. So it looks good. It was maintenance. And then we can just go ahead and post all the invoices. So if you want to change anything, if you need to add additional information, additional comments to that specific invoice, you can go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's select them all just to get the batches out of there. And then sales journal. Oh, let's cancel this. Okay, we're not going to post. It's taking a little too long to pull up. Okay, so let's talk now about streamlining our sales order process. So let's say you have a customer that comes to you and wants to buy, let's say, 1,000 of these widgets. And they don't want to take delivery all at once. They just want to like whittle away at the order. So what you can do is you can create a master order. So in sales order entry, we're still going into sales order entry. We choose the next sales order. Now we can choose the order type. So we're used to using just a standard order or a quote, but you do have the ability for a master order or a repeating order. So for example, what we were discussing, we would create a master order. So we would say, okay, this customer wants to buy 1,000 of these widgets. So let's go to the lines tab. $1,000 price, perfect. So again, this is a template. So we're just going to click accept. We're going to accept through, and then we're going to close out of that. So then when we want to actually go ahead and create a real sales order, they want to start whittling away at that $1,000 unit order, we can open sales order entry again. We would create a new order number, and it will be a standard order this time. And now we're going to choose the master or repeating order number. So it looks like we have a few set up in here. So the way you can tell the difference is by the type. So we have some repeating orders. We have some master orders. The one we just set up now was this master order for on 213. So we can select that specific master order, okay? And then we'll go to the lines tab, and it's going to tell us how many we ordered on our original master order, but we can come in here and change it and say, I want to order 100 of those 1,000. And let's pull up. And so you're going to process this sales order just like you would process any standard order. It's just pre-populating all the items that they want from their master order, okay? So we just created a standard order out of a master order. So next what we're going to do is we're going to create a standard order again, but out of a repeating order. So we already have a repeating order set up. Let's pull that up. And so this one has a bunch of different item codes on it, and it looks like maybe this customer's ordering all these items once a month. So every month they want the exact same order, so this is a good opportunity to use a repeating order. And again, it's pulling in all those items, all those quantities automatically, and all you have to do is click accept, and then you can go ahead and ship it. Do you want to say changes? Yes. Okay, so the beauty of these with the master orders and with the repeating orders, those templates, is they don't affect inventory. So again, it's just a template for you to use, and it's to help you reduce your data entry. So it doesn't affect inventory until you actually create that standard order when you pull in the master or the repeating order. So there's a similar process as in sales order, in purchase order. So let's say you order the same thing regularly from your vendor. Okay, so this is also in purchase order process. Let's see, let's go to purchase order. So it's the exact same process. Purchase order entry. There we go, finally comes up. And we can create a new order number, and the same thing, we have those drop downs. So we have master or repeating order. So we can choose a master order. We would set it up. We would choose the vendor number, the name, the items on it, and then let's cancel out of this one, and we'll create a new standard order. And again, we're going to choose the master or repeating PO number. So it's going to give us a list. So we have some master orders set up. We have some repeating orders set up. So let's pull up a master order. So it's going to look the exact same as in sales order entry. It's going to have a list of all of the items that we've chosen. Let's say, okay, I want to order 10 of these. I don't want any of those this month. I want 10 of these, and I want 5 of these. Okay. So again, it's a template. So it automatically will populate all those items, and it will pull in the total order quantity, and you can change that, okay? So, also in purchase order process, do you want to say changes? No. You can do an auto-generate from sales orders. So if you have a lot of sales orders that you're sitting on, but you want to make sure that you have enough inventory, you can generate a PO based only on the quantity that you require. So the system is going to say, I have 100 in stock and 50 on sales order, and you have a reorder point saved in your inventory module. Okay, so let's pull up where the inventory reorder point is saved. There's a little setup involved first. I want to go into item maintenance. And I'm getting an error. It's not allowing me into that. So in item maintenance, on the top right-hand side, you can click on the button and there's a reorder button, and you can enter your reorder points, okay? So that once you set up those reorder points, you have the ability to go in to auto-generate POs. So it's going to make a determination for you. So rather than you having to go look up how many on hand, running a stock status report that's like 200 pages long and trying to figure out on your own how many you need to reorder, the reorder quantity for just the main warehouse, etc., you can do auto reorder selection, and you can choose, finished goods, raw materials. You can choose procurement types for make, for just buy. You can choose a specific vendor. You can choose a range of items. You can choose all of them if you want. If you want to just do a reorder for all, you can just click proceed. Let's see if we have any out there set up that we can take a look at. And again, it's taking a little bit of time. Oh, there we go. Do you want to generate these orders? So it's not going to give you a list per se, but it's going to ask you, hold on, there we go. So it's going to ask you what you want the next purchase order number to be. That works. It's just the next one, and it's going to go ahead and generate those purchase orders. So let's go into purchase order entry, and we'll take a look at all the POs that have been entered today. So it didn't look like it shows any, but if there were reorder points set up for a specific item, and we were out of that item or we were below the reorder point, it would create those POs for you automatically. So that's going to be really helpful for your purchasing department. So I highly recommend setting your reorder points in item maintenance, especially on stuff that you move frequently, because then these reorder points will talk to the purchase order functionality for you, and it's going to save you a lot of time rather than reviewing reports and seeing what you need to buy and what's required, etc. Okay, so the last thing we're going to review is Paperless Office. So Paperless Office isn't just about saving registers and journals. You also have the ability to send out sales orders, send out invoices, send out purchase orders. So the first thing you're going to want to do is set up. So you're going to go to Paperless Office, setup, and then you're going to, let's go to Paperless Office options first and make sure that it's allowing you. So typically you're going to want to have all these checked off. If you want to electronic deliver forms or reports, you can click off forms or reports. If you save your journals and registers, that's going to be clicked off, etc. So make sure those are all set first. Then what we're going to want to do is go to form maintenance. So form maintenance is where you tell the system which forms you want to be able to send out electronically. So let's see what we have set up so far. So you can set it up for a specific company code, all company codes. You can set it up. Then you would check a specific module code. So for instance, if we want to email out sales orders, we would come in here, we'd set up all companies, module code SO, and then document is sales orders. You want to enable electronic delivery by checking off that box, and then you would choose the from email address, okay? If you're on Office 365, this from email address needs to be the same as the email address set in Library Master Company Maintenance under your email settings. Only if you're on Office 365, that's one thing we've noticed. You want to enter a Paperless Office directory. This is where when you create the PDF, when it's actually electronic delivery, it's going to create that PDF. It's going to save somewhere. So we usually just have a folder called Paperless Office that saves all the journals, registers, reports, and forms all in one place. And then you want to enter an override password if possible. And then you have a few additional setup options if you were to send like a check, etc. So those are good settings, so we're good there. So then what you want to do, so we're going to send out a sales order. So we want to go into company maintenance, customer maintenance, sorry, and we're going to choose a specific customer. And down here on the bottom, you have an email address field. So you can enter as many email addresses as you want here, as long as they're split with a semicolon. Then you would want to click on that Paperless Office button. Okay, this is where you set it up. So you have the customer number. You're going to choose the document. So we're going to send out a sales order and PDF delivery options. We don't want to print that order. We only want to email. You can select all of these if you want. You can just select one. We're just going to electronic delivery for their sales orders. Then you want to go to the email tab, and you can either choose to use the email address in data entry. So that's in sales order entry. You can use that email address. You can set it up to use the customer email address, so the one entered here, which I entered as myself, or you can use contact codes. So if you have contact codes, you can go ahead and choose a specific contact code you want to send it to Artie, okay? Let's go with that. You can also do additional email addresses. So with Paperless Office, it doesn't actually show that an email went out through your Outlook in your outbox. It's going to give you a pop-up that says how many successful emails went out, but it's not going to tell you which ones were successful and which ones weren't, if you had any that failed with wrong email addresses. So some customers like to include an email address so that they're CC'd on those electronic delivery emails so that they can see when the when that, let's say, sales order actually went out successfully, okay? So we're going to click accept there. So each customer needs to be set up, needs to click on this Paperless Office button, set up which email account, etc. So once that's set up, you have the ability now to electronic deliver. So let's go out to sales order. And we've created a sales order for this vendor or this customer. This is the one we set up. Where is, oh, okay, I'm thinking it's currently being invoiced. Let's close out of that. Let's see if there's any that aren't being invoiced. Okay, so as you can see, this would be the email address that you were setting in data entry, but it's auto-populating with the customer email address we have set on file. So now what you want to do is when you go to process, or when you go to print these sales orders, if you click, let's say, this print icon, or if you do quick print, either of those two, it's going to pull up the printing window. Here it is. There we go. Okay, so you're going to choose your form code. If it's a different form code, let's say we have a sales order form code. And then you have this area where it says Paperless Office Outputs. So it's going to default to print all. This is what you're used to. You're just used to it saying print all and then print. But once you have electronic delivery enabled, you have all these new options. So you can say electronic deliver only. So only customers, let's say you're printing a bunch of sales orders at once. You want to only electronically deliver the ones that are set up as electronic delivery. You can click on this. If you want to say print PDF or electronic delivery, so if a customer is set up as just printing, it'll actually print. If the customer is set up as electronic delivery, it's going to electronic deliver, okay? So we have a few different options here. So once you choose your option, all you have to do is click print. It's going to say that it's connecting to the server. They're not accessible from this workstation. Oh, I don't have my, okay. I want to actually show you this go through. So let's make a quick change in Paperless Office. For sales orders, this no longer exists. This PC, local drive. And we'll do Office templates. That's just the folder it's going to save it out to. Okay, so we're good there. That's an actual location on my desktop. Let's go back into sales order printing. And we're going to choose electronic delivery. And I only want to send out one email. I don't want it to try to process all of them. So no longer do you have that preview. You only have the print button. So we're going to choose print. It's going to say that it's connecting to the server. It's going to take a little bit of time depending on how many. Oh, the is invalid. Okay. So once it processes, it's going to give you a quantity of how many were sent, how many you tried to send. Let's say 10. It'll tell me how many were successful. So if any of them failed, it's going to say, 8 were successful, 2 failed. Or if they all were successful, it'll give you that message, okay? So that is pretty much it with the things across the modules that are going to increase efficiency. So now let's move to questions. So let me unmute this. Give me a sec. I'm new to this. Let's see. Oh man. So will you enter in the chat window if you have any questions for me? I can't seem to find the unmute for everybody. Question to staff. So enter in the chat window if you have any questions for me. It doesn't look like we have any. Okay, so if you have any questions, just shoot us an email at am@goism.com, and we can always answer them. If you want to get that handout, the shortcuts, email am@goism.com. We can send you out that handout as well. So I wanted to thank you for your time today. Please review our event calendar at goism.com for any upcoming webinars. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for your time.